Now, let's roll out the carpet and bring on the Mountaineers.
Picked on a spree.
Yes!
To Kevin Jones. A slam dunk. Kevin Jones. Left wing for Gansey. 3 in the air.
Swish!
Ray Jones, their outstanding guard, has to be the key. They'll blame me.
Darryl Prue. Devin Evac. Wapatania! Kirby Brooks on the two-pointer.
Dallas Nichols wins the game.
Alexander. It's a dunk right in his face.
Send it in, Joe.
Staten takes the ball to the left side, spins, shoots, layup, shot, good!
Got the Carter football. Javon Carter is in Trae Young's head.
Butler into the lane, into traffic. It goes again. West Virginia has won its first Big East championship.
They're going wild here at the Coliseum.
So long, Big Blue. Hello, Golden Blue. The West Virginia Mountaineers are going to the Final Four. It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast channel here. CRW Hoops Edition ahead of the first chance that we get to get a look at the game version, I guess, or in a game setting anyway, get a look at the 2023-2024 West Virginia Men's Basketball Club as they'll take on George Mason in an exhibition tomorrow night, and we'll provide a little bit of info on that game here towards the end of the stream, but got plenty of other WVU basketball, preseason news and notes I want to touch on throughout here. Got them on the schedule there on the whiteboard behind me, as you can see. And if you're in here live, I encourage you, as always, drop your questions, comments, concerns in the chat. Apologies for the little schedule switcheroo there. I know I originally scheduled this stream to start at 6, but then I remembered, because it had completely slipped my mind, that it's Thursday. Neil Brown's radio show's at 6, so I know you guys and myself as well probably want to listen to that. So pushed it up a little bit here. I'll start around 5:30 instead. So apologies for that scheduling snafu there. But either way, we're here and we're going to talk some WVU basketball as we're getting set to kick off, or I guess tip off in this term, West Virginia men's basketball season, as my mind's still, in football mode at the point of the season right here where both of these sports intersect, and we'll be covering them both here on the Country Roads webcast. So I wanted to get a live stream in. We'll start bringing you episodes of the CRW Hoops podcast soon, 1 or 2 of those a week in the near future. And after the exhibition game tomorrow night, we're going to do a live stream here, a post-game show. So immediately following the game tomorrow night, come back here. We'll talk some more WVU basketball. But we've got plenty of WVU basketball topics to talk about throughout this stream, and touch on some of your all's comments throughout as well. One of 2 live streams we'll be doing today on the Country Roads webcast channel. Tonight at 9, come with us, chat again, and share your predictions for the West Virginia versus UCF game. That'll be tonight at 9 p.m. when we're talking WVU football. But in the meantime, let's talk some Mountaineer men's basketball. And you guys in here, appreciate everyone being here. Kenny, see you in here, man, as always. Asking what channel the game's on tomorrow. I believe it's ESPN Plus, Kenny. I'm going to share some more info on it later in the stream, but I believe it's ESPN Plus, man. Good to see you in here, Kenny. Appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, and that goes for anyone else that's in here as well. Be sure to drop any WVU basketball questions, comments, concerns you have in the chat. We'll touch on those all along the way. And before we get too much further, I want to encourage you, give us a thumbs up on the video. Giving us a like really helps this performance, helps future videos, performances here on the channel. And if you're a West Virginia fan, Big 12 fan, college basketball fan, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. That being said, let's dive in on some of these news topics that I got here, WVU basketball preseason-wise. And this one just came out yesterday, and we'll lead off with this. And that is, of course, Jay Jacobs, longtime color commentator for West Virginia University, announcing his retirement. A lot of people were kind of expecting or suspecting, I guess I should say, that this was coming because Jay was, close with Bob Huggins, and it always said when, Bob Huggins retired would be when he would go too. And turns out that is going to be the case. He's going to call one more game, I do believe. So West Virginia will be searching for a new replacement to call a game, alongside Tony Caridi for the first time ever. Jay Jacobs has been analyzing games for nearly 50 years, as you see here in this article, which you can find over on West Virginia's official site there, WVUsports.com. This coming from Brian Messerly yesterday. But Jay Jacobs, who has been analyzing Mountaineer basketball games for nearly 50 years, announced his retirement from the Mountaineer Sports Network. Now 85 years old, he will be a part of one final men's basketball broadcast when the Mountaineers host St. John's on Friday, December 1st. In addition, Jacobs will be recognized on the Coliseum floor during a timeout of the WVU and St. John's contest. A replacement for Jacobs on the men's basketball broadcast will be determined at a later date. So it seems like they haven't figured out who that's going to be just yet. Wouldn't it be interesting if it was Andrew Caridi and him and Tony there together? Just kind of thinking out loud there. But then we get a statement from Jay Jacobs in this release, of course. I want to thank West Virginia University for allowing me to be a part of Mountaineer athletics for nearly 5 decades. To the fans who followed the Mountaineers, I just want to say I was a fan just like you, but I had a microphone in my hand. The Morgantown native was initially hired by Paul Miller as a basketball analyst for MSN Television in 1977, forming a three-way pairing with the late Jack Fleming and Woody O'Hara. Also did television work for Home Team Sports, creative sports marketing, and ESPN during Sunbelt Conference games before transitioning primarily to radio in the mid-90s when he teamed with Fleming, and then veteran play-by-play man, and now, of course, play-by-play man Tony Caridi, starting back in 96 and 97. And then we get a statement from Tony Caridi. Jay's love and passion for Mountaineer basketball will never be matched. He grew up following some of WVU's great all-time players and then became a Mountaineer player. He was part of the golden era of WVU basketball. Jay then used that passion and knowledge as a broadcaster for half of a century. He had an absolutely amazing career and will always be a part of West Virginia basketball. So that's great to hear, that Jay Jacobs is going out, with such high regard from his fellow comrades there and Tony Caridi and others, but hate to see him go. It's going to be so different here in the games without Jay on the broadcast. And of course, the coaches' radio shows were always great with Jay Jacobs as well. But if you want to read more of that, you can there at WVUsports.com. But that's just a couple of the comments and a little bit of a summary as Jay Jacobs announces his retirement from calling the WVU basketball games there. So wanted to lead off with that indeed. And then Kenny, leading right into our next subject there, right, providing a nice segue with your comment there, Kenny, in regards to Raekwon Battle. Says he hopes we get Battle to play this year. He's hopeful that we will, as do I, and I've reported this on the past on the CRW proper show, but of course wanted to share it again here on the basketball show, and I'm sure most of you know this by now, but this, of course, coming from the university's official social media. They had this announced on the website as well. The waiver for immediate eligibility for fifth-year guard Raekwon Battle has been denied by the NCAA. West Virginia is attempting to appeal the decision. As Kenny shared there, that's what they're trying to do, is trying to get him back for this year at some point. Seems like even if they are able to get something, happening with that waiver appeal, it'll still be into the season at some point. So West Virginia will at least begin the season without Raekwon Battle, which really stinks. He was a guy you were looking to be a leader there in the backcourt and potentially maybe your leading scorer on this team, your go-to guy if you need a basket. So now someone else will have to step up in that backcourt in those situations and into the starting lineup as well. And a lot of people are thinking that may be Seth Wilson, and I tend to agree with that. He may be the one stepping into the lineup, but the way West Virginia plays may have to change a little bit. Coach Eilert even mentioned that. They may have to focus more on getting the ball inside now to your talented bigs, Jesse Edwards and a Cook. But yes, Kenny, he's trying to. I've seen that as well, and that's good news for West Virginia. Kenny says the West Virginia Attorney General is trying to get involved with this, and I saw him put out a big statement, and he's claiming maybe there's some antitrust things involved. And if you're West Virginia, that could go, or at least be something in your corner to maybe help this be approved on the waiver, on the appeal process. You saw North Carolina's Attorney General get involved on the football side, and they ended up getting an appeal approved for their wide receiver a few games or a few weeks into the season this year in college football. So, I think Raekwon Battle deserves to play. I hate the NCAA is, screwing West Virginia over yet again, but hopefully, getting someone involved like the Attorney General there in Morrissey could help West Virginia's case. But let's take a look at the West Virginia basketball roster now that we know waivers Battle wasn't approved, and we've had some other departures. Of course, the most recent being Jose Perez, who winded up as Arizona State. So I'm going to share the West Virginia roster with you that's or at least how it's looking heading into the season for the Mountaineers now that they've had, some transfer additions, some departures, and of course, the waiver be denied. I'm going to take a swig of my coffee real quick before I do that. All right, so here we are. We're going to do a little bit of a roster rundown as West Virginia gets set to head into the 2023-2024 West Virginia men's basketball season. Excuse me, of course, I want to take a swig of the coffee. It goes down the wrong way there, but I've got it separated just by position here on this roster tracker, which you may have seen throughout the offseason as I tried to track the WVU basketball roster a little bit like I do on the football side, and did some transfer updates as well. But, most recent update of that would be, West Virginia losing Jose Perez, as I mentioned, and, that one dismissed from the team. Then he transfers out as a grad transfer, goes to Arizona State. If you didn't notice, West Virginia added some other players via transfer, mostly international guys that you'll see on the roster here. Touch on those when we get to them. But like I said, got it separated out by position here. We got the jersey numbers now attached to the roster. But this is our roster tracker we've been using on the Country Roads webcast. So running it down here, starting with the guards, the backcourt players. And you see the two at the top there, both in red, and that is because these are two guys that will be sitting out this season, will not be eligible to play this year for West Virginia, but could be in the future. Raekwon Battle, I know he's listed as a fifth-year player, but he does have a redshirt year he can use with that waiver denied, so he could potentially come back next season if the appeal process doesn't work out for West Virginia. And we already knew Noah Farrakhan coming in would not be eligible this year, is a player for next season, but man, he's super talented there at the guard position. You saw him in Mountaineer Madness, looked great in the dunk contest, but those are two talented athletic guards for West Virginia there. So just leading off with those guys, I just wanted to highlight why the asterisk is there beside their names and why they're in red, and that's the reasoning there. But number 21 would be Raekwon Battle, the 6'5", 190 50-year player transferred in from Montana State. And then number 1 would be Noah Farrakhan, 6', 170-pound guard, transferred in from Eastern Michigan. Kerr Kriisa, number 3, transferred in from Arizona, where he led the Pac-12 in assists in back-to-back seasons. 6', 390-pound point guard, pass first guy, really going to be great at orchestrating the offense this season. I think a lot of West Virginia basketball fans have been clamoring for like a true point guard. You certainly got it in Kerr Kriisa, but with some of the losses that West Virginia has lost, those being Silverio and Perez recently, and now potentially Battle as well, Kerr Kriisa may have to step up and score the ball a little bit more than he previously thought of when he came in here to West Virginia. But that's not his go-to. He's a pass-first guy, but he can shoot the basketball very well, so we'll see what happens with that. But I'm excited about that addition for the Mountaineers. And then, of course, Seth Wilson, I mentioned him briefly earlier. He's a guy that's definitely going to have to step up now with Raekwon's Battle being denied for the time being, at least to begin the season. He's probably going to jump into that starting lineup now. Still wearing number 14. He's going to be a junior this year, 6'1", 215 pounds. Great shooter, as we know. And then Kobe Johnson, number 2, 6'3", 210 pounds, also a junior. And shout out to both of these guys for sticking it out here on the Mountaineer basketball roster. And now they're going to really reap the benefits of that this season. Seth Wilson, as I said, may step into the starting lineup and be counted upon to be a scorer for this team. And Kobe Johnson, you heard the coaching staff, Josh Eilert, say in some press conferences this year, if they were to, count on a guy to, or need a guy to shut down an opposing player or to get a stop for them, that he feels like Kobe Johnson would be that guy. He's going to be their go-to defender. And then number 5, Jeremiah Bembry, to round out the guards for West Virginia, transferred in from Florida State. 6'5", 185 pounds, redshirt freshman, more of a developmental guy for West Virginia. Going to take some, time for him to really get acclimated and really get involved more than sparingly. Early in the season through the non-con, he may play more than he does once that, lineup gets shortened, that rotation gets shortened once you get into the conference games. But, the coaching staff mentioned that he could find ways onto the floor if he can improve his defense because, with that length, he could really affect some things on that end if he can learn how to be great on ball defense and everything like that. So that's something that they're looking for from Bembry, but he's super athletic and a guy that has potential for the future. And then moving on to the front court now, these forwards for West Virginia, starting off with the guy that transferred in from Georgetown, a Cook. Number is going to be wearing number 13. He's going to be starting in the front court there alongside the other West Virginia center, who we'll talk about when we get to that position. But 6'10", 225 pounds, fifth-year player, and he's bringing something to the table West Virginia hasn't had in a couple of seasons or a few seasons, and that's going to be great rim protection. I think that West Virginia's got some guys that are going to do a great job of that this season. He's one of those, and he can score the basketball as well, so excited for him and his game. And, with him and the other West Virginia big man, the center, Jesse Edwards, we'll talk about here in a bit, I love the potential of, Kirk Reese throwing those guys lobs. One thing that I'm excited about with this West Virginia basketball team this season is the offense is going to change. The style of play is going to change. They're going to play a bit faster pace, be a bit more run and gun. So when we see that, that's going to be fun to see some fast breaks where Kirk Reese, a pass first guy, can, hit some lobs to a Cook and Edwards and some of these other athletic Mountaineer players. And I'm excited to see what a Cook can do transferring in here. One of the later transfers that West Virginia was able to add, but a very highly regarded one at that. And then speaking of transfers, got another one here in number 11, Quinn Slazinski, transferring in, 6'9", 215 pounds. He'll be a senior this season, and he's a guy that I think can be a great shooter for the Mountaineers. Think of a stretch 4 player, could potentially play the 3 as well, but he's a great shooter. I think in the secret scrimmage, he was 4 or 5 from 3, something like that, I think Coach Eilert said. So I love his ability there. I think that the thing that you're going to want to look for improvement from with him is being able to, bang down low a little bit and, get some rebounds. I think that as we talk about these Mountaineer big men, they're athletic and some of them can shoot, but you look at the size a little bit there, 225 on a Cook, 215 on Slazinski, 230 on Edwards, 230 on Sumnick, 200 on Josiah Harris. You worry about them getting, banged down in the paint and in teams out rebounding us a little bit. That's going to be something that we're going to need to improve on throughout the season and hope that we can make a strength as our rebounding, because that's one of my concerns heading in. But I think Slazinski can be a great player for West Virginia as a stretch 4 that, Kirk Reese can drive and kick to, and he can hit some shots this season. And then you got Pat Sumnick returning, number 24, 6'8", 230-pound junior. Showcased some good things last season. I think we'll continue to see his game develop. He really showed some athleticism in that dunk contest as well, and I think he's got some good potential. And, speaking of rebounding, he may be the one guy that has the potential to really get in there and make that, kind of carve out a niche role for him in that regard as a guy that specializes in rebounding. And then next up, Josiah Harris, number 22, 6'7", 200 pounds, only a sophomore. But how impressive is this guy? Because he's already graduated from West Virginia as a true sophomore. It's very impressive. So he's just going to continue to rack up degrees throughout his time here on campus. So, he's very bright, and that's great when it comes to basketball IQ and things he can do on the court in that matter, to go along with what we already know that he has athleticism-wise. And I think that he's an underrated shooter as well. I'm expecting him to really have a great role on this team this season, and I think a lot of people are going to love Josiah Harris this season. And rounding out the forwards for West Virginia, mentioned, some guys that transferred in late, some international players. This is one of those. We did a video on him on the channel. Offrey Neve, he's going to be wearing number 9, 6'6", 185-pounder. He's coming in as a true freshman, so that's great to see, because he's a guy that, kind of some of the same things I said about Bembry. He's going to be a developmental guy, really raw, but he has a very high ceiling when you watch, his tape. There's something to be said about the level of competition. I'm not quite sure what that was with some of the guys he was playing with there, but he looked very fast with the ball in his hands, was able to handle the ball well for a guy that's, 6'6", and, had some athleticism to him certainly, and can shoot the basketball. So he could be a matchup problem, because he's a guy that's got guard type skills, but could play, a stretch 4 for you if he can develop into that. West Virginia's going to need to, put some weight on him and stuff for that to happen, but he's a guy with a very high ceiling and could still, grow a few inches as well and be even taller. So you like his potential coming in. And then we get to the center position, where to me, this is going to be the star of the show for West Virginia that we're talking about right here. Number 7, Jesse Edwards, 6'11", 230-pounder, 5th-year guy transferring in from Syracuse. Can't say enough positive things about this guy. The one concern, of course, is him transitioning rather from playing zone defense all the time at Syracuse to, he's going to be playing a lot more man-to-man here at West Virginia, and how will he handle that? And like I said, the rebounding concerns and things that go along with that, but he's certainly going to be a guy that's going to be an absolute weapon. I mentioned rim protecting, and this is the guy for that. He averaged nearly 3 blocks a game. Believe he led the ACC in blocks and was near the top in rebounds as well. No West Virginia players averaged near that in any time in recent history. So that's big. And he also was a double-digit scorer, I think near 15 points a game, something like 15, 11, and 3 as far as, and I'm talking that would be points, rebounds, and blocks last season at Syracuse. So certainly a guy with superstar potential for the Mountaineers. Excited about him this season. And then lastly, rounding out the basketball roster, the most recent addition for West Virginia coming in late, number 43, Ali Ragab, 7 foot, 275-pound guy. So that's the one guy that certainly has a ton of size, in comparison to some of the other players on the roster. But much like Neve and Bembry that I mentioned before him, super raw guy that's going to take some time to develop. Think of, a guy like a Sini Njai that West Virginia was bringing in and trying to develop over time. I think Ollie Ragobs will maybe a little bit more ahead of him because, a little bit bigger in size, but it's going to be that same type of guy you're going to have to develop over time. You probably won't see a ton of this season, but who knows, he could surprise us. But that's what we got as far as the West Virginia basketball roster is concerned so far. I wanted to do a little bit of a roster rundown here on this live stream. So wanted to share that as that is our basketball roster tracker here on the Country Roads webcast. Come back here and catch up on some of your all's comments here. Appreciate you tuning in here, Kenny, and I'm going to take a swig of my coffee momentarily. Kenny asked, how did Jose Perez get his waiver with Arizona State? Well, he actually didn't need one because he had graduated already, so he could transfer as a grad transfer, and post-grad transfers don't need waivers. They're immediately eligible, so that's how he's, ready-made to go over there to Arizona State. He says, Jordan, I believe we'll have a 28-4 record. Wow, Kenny, you're super high on this team, and I love that. Here they have that potential for sure. They do have a high potential, high ceiling for this team. I think some of the recent losses have me a bit worried, especially the Raekwon Battle, waiver situation. Before then, I think West Virginia had a shot at 20 wins. Now I'm a bit concerned. I'm kind of in wait and see mode. The scrimmage tomorrow may show us a little bit of, where we're at. We'll see how it looks in that scrimmage. But before we get to that, I want to talk about that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Big 12 preseason poll released not too long ago, just ahead of Big 12, media days or whatever it is they're calling it now. West Virginia participated in that. But here's the preseason poll. A little bit more respect than West Virginia got on the football side. At least the basketball team wasn't predicted to finish last. You see West Virginia there near the middle at 9th. Just a quick rundown. Kansas was first in the preseason poll with 12 first-place votes. Newcomer Houston was second. They got 2 first-place votes. And then you have Texas third, Baylor fourth, TCU fifth, Kansas State sixth, Iowa State seventh, Texas Tech eighth. Like I said, West Virginia there at number 9 in the poll. Oklahoma State 10th, Cincinnati 11th, Oklahoma 12th, BYU 13th, and UCF predicted their last in the conference this season. So that's the Big 12 preseason poll. Wanted to touch on that. And then lastly, got a couple other things I want to touch on before I share some notes on the scrimmage, and then we'll get up out of here before too much longer. Like I said, want to wrap this up, give you guys a chance to check out Neil Brown's radio show, but we'll be back to talk some more WVU basketball following the scrimmage tomorrow. We'll do a post-game show following that. And, if you didn't get a chance to chat with us here in this one and you want to talk with us, we're going to be live here again in just a couple hours at 9 p.m. tonight to, take your predictions for WVU UCF and talk some West Virginia football. But before we close up here, speaking of radio shows in regards to Neil Brown's coming up tonight, Coach Josh Eilert's going to have his radio shows kicking off here soon, or tipping off. Like I said, my mind's still on that football terminology. I'm always saying kicking off, but tipping off here on the basketball side, right? But Coach Eilert's, it will also be from 6 to 8 p.m. The first one will be coming up October 30th, and there you see them subsequently, when they will be happening, October 30th, November 8th, November 13th, on down the line. I won't bore you with all of them. I see they've got one on March 7th, though. That's my birthday. Pretty cool that they'll have one happening on my birthday there. But, of course, Coach Josh Eilert's radio show at Kegler's, you can catch on the Mountaineer Sports Network on the radio, just like you'll be able to catch Neil Brown's tonight here coming up in just a few minutes. But Coach Josh Eilert will have his first ever this season, so that's pretty cool. I wanted to share that information, as I also wanted to share the information of the promotions this year for the West Virginia men's basketball season. This is the non-conference schedule promotions anyways for the 2023-2024 season. Of course, kicking things off, there I go again, tipping things off tomorrow night with George Mason, October 27th, 7 p.m. charity exhibition game. So super low ticket price. If you can get up there and check it out, it's going to be, tickets as low as $10. West Virginia takes on George Mason. And then the home opener, it's going to be poster day. They'll be giving out posters November 6th at 7 p.m. The game against Monmouth on November 10th is going to be Military Appreciation Day. And then we play Jacksonville State November 14th. And there will be a toy drive with tickets be as low as $10 for that game as well. And they'll also be giving out magnets, Magnet Day there. And then we'll play Bellarmine, never remember how to say that one. I think it's Bellarmine, November 27th. And that's going to be family day for $65. You can get 4 tickets and a $25 concession voucher. And then St. John's on December 1st will be the Gold Rush game for the Big East and Big 12 battle. And then, of course, we've got Spit coming in on December 6th for the Backyard Brawl, the basketball version, the basketball brawl. Some people like to term it, or the basket brawl, I think is what they like to call it. And then December 9th versus Drexel will be Youth Sports Day, and it'll be a canned food drive taking place. Tickets will be as low as $10 for the game against Radford on December 20th. And then they will have another family day for the game against Toledo on December 23rd, just ahead of Christmas there. So yet again, you'll be able to get 4 tickets and a $25 concession voucher for $65. And also you can wear your ugly holiday sweater there to the game. It's ugly holiday sweater day for that game against Toledo. So those are the non-conference game promotions for the 2023-2024 men's basketball season. I wanted to share those. Take one more swig of my coffee, catch up on some more comments here, and then get ready to wrap things up with the information on the scrimmage tomorrow night against George Mason. He says that's preseason. It don't matter. Exactly. These preseason polls are always a wash. They're wrong way more than the right, Kenny. I completely agree with you, but appreciate you tuning in here live with us, Kenny, and anyone else that did so here. Or if you're watching this on a playback, and if you are watching this on a playback, be sure to hit that thumbs up button for us even there. It really helps us, helps this video's performance, future videos performances as well. And if you're a West Virginia basketball fan, Big 12 basketball fan, or just a college basketball fan in general, be sure to subscribe here. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. And if you didn't get a chance to tune in live, drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll try and respond there in text form as soon as I can. But the last thing I've got here is just a little bit of information on the exhibition, the charity exhibition tomorrow night against George Mason. And got this coming from Golden Blue Nation. They shared some great information on this, pretty much everything you would need to know about that scrimmage tomorrow night, with all the proceeds to the game, supporting West Virginia Medicine Children's Hospital, as I said there. But the info, of course, taking place tomorrow night, October 27th at 7 o'clock p.m. at the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, televised there on ESPN+. So it is on ESPN+, as I thought there, Kenny. And then the radio, of course, just the Mountaineer Sports Network, any affiliates you got there. You can find tickets at WVUgame.com. Still some available if you want to try and head up tomorrow night. Information on the all-time series: West Virginia has never lost to George Mason in 4 regular season meetings since 1986. Their last meeting, WVU beat George Mason 91-65 in Puerto Rico. The Mountaineers are still fine-tuning the rotations. It will exclude Montana State transfer guard Raekwon Battle, as we said, with his waiver being denied. See if I can find a little bit of info on George Mason here. George Mason is led by Oklahoma State transfer forward Woody Newton, 13 starts at Oklahoma State, and returning guard Ronald Polite III. Polite III was the team's 3rd leading scorer last season with 11.5 points per game. WVU guard Seth Wilson leads the 4 returning scorers from leads the 4 West Virginia returners from a scoring perspective, but the Mountaineers' offensive production will be largely generated from its transfers. In Syracuse transfer Jesse Edwards, who averaged 14.5 points and 10.3 rebounds per game at Syracuse. So I wasn't far off. I was guessing 15 and 11. I was pretty close. Arizona transfer Kirk Risa led the Pac-12 in assists per game, both the past 2 seasons, as I stated there. And then Georgetown transfer Cook, 7 points per game last season. And then Iona transfer Quinn Slazinski should shoulder some of the load as well. As I mentioned earlier in the roster rundown there, they've named some of the transfers there. And, you know, if you know anything about George Mason, the one thing that I remember is that Final Four run they had back in 2006, I believe it was. And I appreciate that info coming from goldenbluenation.com. But that's what I remember George Mason from, with that Final Four run. And I remember rooting for them on that Final Four run. Actually, I didn't dig it out because I think I got it in storage somewhere. But I even have a George Mason Final Four shirt because that was, you know, I think I was 12 or 13 years old at the time. So, I really just got into where I, watched like every game type deal in the tournament and had never really seen a Cinderella story like that. So I was pulling for them all the way when they got to the Final Four there. And I remember that's when I hated Florida's basketball team for a while because Joakim Noah and Al Horford and those guys was the team that finally ended the George Mason run. But I say all that to say not only bring up memories of George Mason, but also their starting guard, I believe he was the starting shooting guard in that team, was a guy named Tony Skinn. And it's kind of bringing it full circle for me because I heard that George Mason's head coach of their basketball team now, none other than Tony Skinn, the guard on that amazing Final Four, Cinderella team that George Mason had way back in the early 2000s when I was just a young guy. So pretty cool stuff there. But West Virginia will take on George Mason tomorrow night in that exhibition game, and looking forward to checking out this men's basketball club, our first chance to get a look at the 2023-2024 version of the men's basketball program in a game setting anyway, and excited to look at them and then talk about how they look with you guys after. So come right back here to the Country Roads webcast channel following the West Virginia scrimmage tomorrow night. We're going to host a post-game live stream here. We'll chat with you guys. You guys give us your review of the game. We'll give you our reaction, and we'll talk about it. It'll be a lot of fun. And if you guys want to talk with us before then and you can't wait that long, good thing you don't have to. Like I said, we'll be live here again on the Country Roads webcast channel tonight at 9 p.m. to talk some West Virginia football and take your predictions for the game against UCF. And looking forward to that as well. And it's going to be a fun time here as both of these seasons are intersecting and, happening simultaneously here at this part of the season. We'll have West Virginia football to talk about and West Virginia basketball to talk about here on the Country Roads webcast channel. So be sure and subscribe to us here if you're a WVU sports fan in general. And we really appreciate you guys here at the Country Roads webcast channel. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.